Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the TAC Oceania regionals that happened in person in Melbourne this past weekend. It was over 300 players, and it did have this top 16 cut that we see here today. And real quick, thank you so much to TAC for not only running the event, but also for publicizing the list. It was on their Facebook, which will be linked in the description, as well as on this page, which this page is also linked in the description there too. It also has links to their VODs. They did stream both days on Twitch, since it was a day 1 best of 1 Swiss into a day 2 best of 3 top 16, and then day 1 and 2 there, and it'll be re-uploaded to their YouTube channels as well, so make sure to check that out. And this is a pretty deep into set 2 here in the One Piece card game, and we're seeing a whole lot of red, even to the point that the entirety of our top 8 here is a red deck between Newgate, Zoro, Luffy, and just I guess the other version of Newgate with the Moby Dick. So honestly, some variety in that, but again, I think a lot of people are finding just a lot of red just sneaking its way into these top cuts, and it's just being very, very strong in a lot of ways. So we're going to have to see if that's going to be an issue, since we do have almost 2 more months left in this format. So hopefully we find something to do with these red decks in these, but they've been very, very strong, and I think for a good reason. So we're going to talk about the top placing list for each one of these leaders, starting off with our first place. Here is Steven's first place, Newgate, and again, we did have 4 of these Newgates be Straw Hats, with one of them being a Moby Dick variant of it. And again, very, very strong deck. I don't have a lot to say about this one particularly. I feel like I've pretty much already put this deck list into this into this card for card, just the idea that you have a lot of 2Ks, you have a couple 1Ks including Nami and Otama doing very good there. Deciding not to use the Makino package, since that was a 2K I think a lot of people were on. Also deciding to use Nico Robin instead of Vista, and also Jozu as a 2K as well as the rush target. So a little bit of variety from what we're seeing, and not just a pure Straw Hat variant, especially with some Atmos and some King Dews as well. But in general, this has been a very incredibly strong deck, and I don't think it's going to be doing anything but win for the next couple weeks there. So congratulations to Steven for their first place finish there. And real quick, we also have a top 8. So this is Anthony's top 8 Moby Dick version of the list. And again, Moby Dick is getting banned as soon as set 3 drops here in North America, so that's something to consider there. But I do kind of like how this deck's been a little bit stronger in the last couple weeks. I think as soon as the Straw Hat variant got some success at the beginning of the regional seasons, people just pretty much dropped the boat beard version of it, but it's been again sneaking up a little bit, and I think it's good for not only against the Straw Hat variant, but it has some really kind of nice matchups, especially since it's more geared for lasting longer in the game, where the Straw Hat version is very aggressive based, and if they lose their tempo, you can really kind of punish them for it too. So but this deck has some unique cards to it, including Chopper, which isn't always seen in these builds, as well as we do have like the Luffy, we do have the Jozu, and also we do have like the Whitebeard Pirates. Only 1 copies of it, but looking top 5 for any of your Whitebeard characters, which is really nice. You can't find the Moby Dick, but can be very good for finding your Newgate if you really need to find it. So you're having like a 5th copy of that, which is kind of nice. And 1 Dawn for this isn't too heavy for the cost for it. Not all of the Moby Dick variants I've been seeing actually run the Newgate. I think a lot of them run without it, so it's interesting to see the inclusion of him here. And again, Newgate's just a really strong leader in this game. I think he's probably the strongest one, if I was to be super candid with it. There are ways to beat him, but he is just very, very strong. So congratulations to Anthony for their finish there. Next up, we have our second place list. This is Jasper's Zoro list, and I feel like I don't want just this whole video being like, yeah, another red deck has topped, but man, another red deck has topped. I don't know what to say. Like it's very good for what Zoro does too. The fact that like if I see an opponent and they play turn 1 Nami into turn 2 Hurley to Dan, I already feel like I lose more times than not. It's just such a good start, and then you get these to get the power up, so they get like a bunch of attacks in, and it's very kind of hard to have the defensive prowess you need to be able to get over all of these 5K swings that they're able to do very, very efficiently. And then also if you have tiny blockers, Vista comes out, or even Nico Robin, both of them can pressure any kind of semblance of control you're trying to do with it early game, and you just don't have to worry about the late game because you don't really get there. And even if you do, these Newgates are very good for just punishing and hitting your opponent. So the only thing I don't like about this build is I do like having Sanji in the list, just because I just feel like the card draw from life is just a little bit too important to give up, in the sense that sometimes your opponent doesn't hit your face at all just trying to do board clearing, and you do sometimes run out of gas, and that Sanji can kind of help you there. But I think Brook is just as good in a lot of ways. That's just my personal choice for it. And I don't know, Zoro's in a really good spot as well. So there we go for Jasper's list. And then our final red list of this video, we do have the top 4. This is Benjamin's Luffy. And, you know, in set 1, I was a big fan of Luffy. I think I still think Luffy set 1 is better than Zoro set 1 in a lot of ways. But Luffy can do, it can be strong in its own way. It's kind of like in between the aggression of Zoro and kind of like the, I don't want to even say super aggression, but just like the fact that this is like a mid-range, like tempo-based version of Red. Just the fact that you get like 1 extra Dawn is very good, especially since with the Luffy ability, you can just essentially be a 6k leader every turn on tempo, which is really good when you're playing against Newgate in a lot of ways. So I think that can make it a little bit better than Zoro at times against that Newgate, which again, like you have to always consider about your matchup against Newgate in this meta, because there are just too many people playing it, and it's just seeing so much success. So you have to really gear a lot of your gameplay and the things that you do play around that as well. So, but yeah, Luffy's is in a good spot as well. Also, like running the Red Hawk, because you will have a little bit more flexibility with your Dawn, which means that you will have 2 open a little bit easier. The Mass Deuce is also an interesting tech. It is a 2K. Also, it can be like if you're on tempo, you can use it to have a potential Dawn ×2, and Dawn ×2 doesn't really matter as much as Luffy. And also, like, he is, I think, like the best leader to take advantage of like multiple Newgates, because you can drop this with 9 Dawn. Next turn you'll have 10, which means that you'll be able to put 2 Dawn underneath this, have a swing, and then play another one. Well, it's mostly you play another one, and then you use the leader effect and the extra Dawn you have open to play it, and you're in a really good spot too. So I think that's a good something good for this leader, and it is very, very strong there. So this is the list here, and congratulations to Benjamin for their top place finish there. Next up, we pretty much have all the decks that were not red that did get into the top 16, but they all lost the first round, starting off with David's top 16 starter deck, Kaido. And I haven't seen Kaido in a couple weeks. I think a lot of people have kind of switched off of it a little bit. It is a very strong deck in a lot of ways, but just the fact that you have to be just a little bit inconsistent. The fact that you have a lot of cards that you want to run that don't have counter in their hand, which essentially like this entire bottom row, right? This entire bottom row of this deck, besides the Queen, has no counter associated with it, which is really crazy. So like the Kings are good for getting the removal. Sure, the Kaido's strong. Thunder Bagua, Hell's Judgment, and Bracho Bomber, all of these are good, but man, you just don't get the pieces you really need all the time. And so like just the fact that you sometimes don't get that means your hand's really just full of cards you don't need, and it kind of affects you there. But I do like having the Impel down package. I think that is just good enough. Just having a 1-drop that searches anything in purple is just where they're at in the game right now. Just so many other decks have so many good searchers, and this is just really the only one in purple besides like a film searcher, and I think this one is just better for what it is. You're able to find a 2-drop blocker. You're able to find a 2K. No, this is a film, so this is don't mention that one. But we also have like another 2K here with Saudi. We have Mini Koala, which can also ramp you and like just be like what? Oh no, it's only with Impel down. You can't ramp in this deck. Sorry. But I don't know. You just get advantage there, and then if you have like if you're playing against something aggressive, you can have Hannibal attack down like 1Ks. So that's something okay with it, but and also House Judgment is findable, but I don't know. It's just this deck can be so bricky at times, and like Onigashima is such a curse in the fact that once you see one, you're good, but any other copies of it, you hope to just be able to discard with Queen. But it's in a weird spot. I like Kaido, but it's really hard for this deck to be consistent, and but it's just, which also means it's a really big accomplishment to get a top 16 finish with this one too. So congratulations to David for their finish there. Then next up we have Steven with their Emporio, and Emporio and Dofi kind of just switch off pretty much like every event of which is the blue deck that tops the event. We normally just get like 1 or 2 blue decks on average with it, and it's rarely one where we have Emporio and Dofi top at the same time. But I really do like this list. It suffers kind of like the same issue that we have with the Zoro with the Kaido, is that you just have so many cards that are potentially breaking your hand, but also just the fact that you only have like 2 cards in your hand at any time. So just think about like combinations of cards that you see right here, and if you can have like 2 of these cards in your hand at any given time, how much would those cards stink, right? Because you have a couple without any counters. Mihawk is really great if you're able to establish it on curve, but also it's really hard to play this on curve, but also most of the time when you do play this, unless you have a new comma land, you also will be passing with only one card in hand too. So it's a really interesting playstyle. There are definitely ways to make this deck more consistent and strong, but you do also have to be wary that, you know, some aggressive decks can really punish this down if you're not able to establish your blockers very early. So anyways, that is my quick thoughts on Emporio here, but big congratulations to Steven on their finish there. Next up, we have our Eustass Kid, and if you guys have been following me in the last couple weeks, I've been really enjoying Eustass Kid in this format, and honestly, this is pretty similar to the builds that I've been running currently. There are a couple changes with it. Specifically, they are running Punk Gibson, which I am playing an eventless version of it, but this is a very good card. My only issue with this card is that you have to leave 2 energy or 2 Dawn open, and that's asking a lot for this deck sometimes, especially since there's no sense of like reduction for cost for anything. You're playing everything for full cost, and especially like if you're trying to go into your Captain Kid turn, you just simply won't have Dawn open for Punk Gibson, and it's just like a really, really weird spot. However, I also do agree that if you're playing in something aggressive, this does go 2 for 1 a lot of the time, which is nice, and it can help you on the defense side. So maybe it's something I have to consider on my own for a deck like this, but I do think it's very strong. I do like the idea that there is not an Okiku in this build. I don't think Okiku needs to exist, well, as long as Yamato does. Though I am a little curious with seeing only 2 of these in the deck. I think that 3 or 4 is probably what I would probably go to. This is still a really neat card if it goes off. And again, I really do like what this deck does a lot of the time. And again, you can play a lot of matchups where this 8-drop just saves you the game. The only matchup you really can't is when you play against something like Smoker, where like they can get out of this pretty easily. So you'd have to be a bit wary, but that's not super in the meta. However, it did get a top 16 in this event. Do you guys like that segue? I thought it was pretty clever there. But we do have Zack's top 16 Smoker build, and I really do like what Smoker does, and Smoker does remind me kind of what like Set 1 Kaido does in a lot of ways, where it does pretty much have outs to everything in the game. The only issue is that you have to find and sequence everything correctly to be able to get those outs and be able to defend yourself in the right way. But man, it is a very strong deck when it goes off, especially like Kuzan is a great secret rare if you're able to get to stick. The fact that it costs 10 is kind of stinky at times. Impact Wave is such a good card on the defense, being able to go 2 for 1 a lot easier than Punk Gibson. Like this is a card worth, you know, leaving 2 Dawn open. Punk Gibson, sometimes your opponent can play around it. This one's a lot harder to play around with if they have like a 1-drop blocker already established on the board. Kuzan's being able to draw and cycle cards is great. The fact that Borsalino is such an obnoxious blocker is great too, so like as a 6K. The Smoker is nice for what it does, being able to get plus 2K if there's something 0. And just, I don't know, this deck is really fun. I do like what it does, but it's just it's in a weird spot at times, but I really do like it there. So congratulations to Zack for their finish with Smoker. And to wrap it all up, we do have Kinemon with only getting 1 top in the 16 here. And I really don't, I really think this is a deck that you can really adjust to and do well, but I also think this is a really, really crazy build for this deck. Like, look at this top end. We have 2 of each of the kids and also 3 of the Odins. Like, that is a lot of cards that, you know, for the high end. And also, we have a lot of cards that just don't have any counter costs in them. We have Okikus, we have Yamatos, we have Laws, we have all of these guys. We have 3 Paradise Waterfalls, 2 Punk Gibsons. Like, this is a wild list. This is a crazy, crazy list where it comes down to just like probably a lot of turns where you just only have like 1 king counter in hand if you're lucky, if that. So I think this is a really interesting one. This would be something that I have to test myself to see if going just heavy onslaught on all these non-counter cards is really worth it. I would have to think like you'd have some issues with some early aggro at times. Punk Gibson does help you though, in Paradise Waterfall. Also can like reset a blocker, which is nice, but man, it's in a weird spot. I don't know how I feel about this list specifically, but it is you know, the one that topped. So I do think it's a really neat one. It's just one that these ratios are a little wild to me. But congratulations to Shing Ho for their finish on that one. And this is going to be my breakdown for this event. So again, thank you guys for watching, and make sure to check out TAC Games Facebook and their YouTube for more information about their events, as well as their re-uploads to their Twitch VODs and everything else. And again, thank you to TAC for providing this information. Make sure to check out my website for events like this and others for the One Piece card game, and that will be it for me. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.